Greetings and welcome to the Artist Speaks with our beloved Alonzo Adams. My name is Kendall Hall and I serve as the president of the Rutgers African American Alumni Alliance. And we are beyond thrilled for the opportunity to collaborate with the Zimmerli Museum and the Rutgers University Alumni Association. It is our hope that this is the first of many collaborations. We thank you for the opportunity to introduce and promote our community members to the larger Rutgers University community. So thank you, and we hope that you enjoy the evening.
Good evening. I'm Jason Geary, Dean of Mason Gross School of the Arts, and it's my great pleasure to welcome you to this conversation featuring renowned artist Alonzo Adams. Now, you might be wondering why the Dean of Mason Gross is welcoming you to an event at the Zimmerli. Well, I'm glad you asked that question because I'm going to tell you. And there are, in fact, 3 reasons why this is the case, and pay close attention, please, because there will be a quiz. The first is that Mason Gross and the Zimmerli Art Museum are close collaborators. Indeed, this collaborative relationship is literally on display right now through the Angela Davis Seize the Time exhibition, which was co-curated by Jerry Began, a professor of art and design at Mason Gross, and Donna Gustafson, a curator at the Zimmerli, about whom you'll be hearing more and hearing from in a moment. In fact, Mason Gross faculty and students are frequently engaged in activities at the Zimmerli, teaching, learning, interning, and otherwise contributing to content at the museum. The second reason it makes sense for me to be introducing this event is because the artist at the center of it, Alonzo Adams, is a Mason Gross alumnus, and one of whom we are tremendously proud. You're going to hear more about Alonzo's work momentarily, and I don't want to steal any thunder, but suffice it to say that his amazing career reflects a level of forward-thinking artistry, visibility, and impact that we hope all of our students can achieve. And I'm so excited personally and for all of us collectively to get a window into his creative mind, especially given that his voice is such an important one among Black artists of our time and amid efforts that so many of us are undertaking to ensure that the art world more accurately reflects the diversity of the world around us. Finally, the third reason that I'm up here is that it gives me a chance to introduce the fabulous new director of the Zimmerli Art Museum, Maura Riley, who I can say in my role as co-chair of the search committee, I played a small part in identifying. Though truthfully, Maura's appropriateness for this position leapt off the page, and in that regard, made the committee's work quite easy. Maura, who is now, 10 days on the job, first day in the office, as I understand, is a celebrated curator, writer, art consultant, and nonprofit leader. She's the founding curator of the Elizabeth A. Sackler Center for Feminist Art at the Brooklyn Museum, where she developed and launched the first exhibition and public programming space in the country devoted entirely to feminist art. She has a PhD in art history from the Institute of Fine Arts at New York University and has taught at institutions in the US and Australia, including Bard College at Simon's Rock, Queensland College of the Arts, Tufts University, and most recently, Arizona State University. Maura has organized dozens of international exhibitions with a focus on marginalized artists and has published extensively, including her recent book, Curatorial Activism, Towards an Ethics of Curating. I'm so thrilled that she's going to properly introduce Alonzo and that I can now call her a colleague. Please welcome Maura Riley.
Thank you so much, Jason. It is a pleasure to be here. I am especially delighted because it is my first event as director. And I am also incredibly delighted that we have this opportunity to collaborate with the Rutgers African American Alumni Association. And again, I hope this is the first of many such events. So let's be sure to make that happen. So I want to welcome all of you who are joining us virtually. and those of us who are here in the room. And I hope to see many more of you at future events at the museum. Now, I have the distinct pleasure of introducing tonight's speakers. Alonzo Adams, who we are all here especially to see, was born in Harlem. He was raised in Plainfield, New Jersey, so he's a New Jersey boy. He received his BFA from Rutgers University and MFA from the University of Pennsylvania. His vivid and incredibly moving paintings, of which you can see two right here, focus on contemporary African American life. In his approach to his chosen medium, again, painting, he's been influenced by some of the greatest painters of all time, including them Charles White, Jacob Lawrence, and of course, Rembrandt, which I think you can see. Since 2016, he's been working on the series Code Blue, which draws its title from the designation for a medical emergency. It addresses the discrimination and adversity faced by African Americans today, as well as the community's strength and resilience. His paintings have been featured in innumerable exhibitions, including at the prestigious Studio Museum in Harlem and Howard University, and the Russell Senate Building in Washington, D.C. His work is also included in incredibly important private collections, including the wonderful Reverend Jesse Jackson, Maya Angelou, the pop singer Patti LaBelle, Eddie Murphy, Senator Bill Bradley, and many more. And in 2004, Adams became one of the first inductees into the Rutgers African American Alumni Association's Hall of Fame. Now, Donna Gustafson is the curator of American art here at the Zimmerli and the Mellon director for academic programs. And she's a member also of the graduate faculty in art history here at Rutgers. She has a PhD in art history from Rutgers University with a focus on American art. Her research interests include photography and social protest, art of the 20th century, particularly art from the 1960s and 1970s, and also has a specialty in global contemporary art. Her recent publications and exhibition projects include Angela Davis Sees the Time, which is currently on view. Also Stitching Time, the social justice quilt project with Maureen Kelleher, which is also currently on view, and I highly recommend you go to see that as well. Other important recent exhibitions include Subjective Objective, A Century of Social Photography. Another was Polymorphic Sculpture, Leo Amino. Another one dedicated to the fabulous Guerrilla Girls. And another art around Beyond Fluxus at Rutgers University. Now, her exhibitions and research have been funded by Andrew Mellon Foundation, the Andy Warhol Foundation, the Luce Foundation, National Endowment for the Arts, and she has published extensively, presented papers, organized symposia on a variety of American and contemporary art topics. So as you can see, we have two very prestigious speakers with us this evening, and I'm delighted to turn over the mic to them. Thank you.
Go.
Absolutely.
So thank you, everyone. Thank you to all of our speakers so far. It was wonderful introductions. I'm happy to be sitting here with Alonzo, who I only met about 25 minutes ago, but we've been in correspondence and we planned the evening. So what we're going to do is I have a series of questions for Alonzo, and we'll start the ball rolling by talking about his time at Rutgers, his career, his paintings, and anything else that comes up as we're talking. And then we will open the questions up to the floor. So anyone who is here in the audience will have the first chance to ask questions. And then any of you who are watching virtually, you should use your Q&A feature and send your questions in. Lindsay Stanton will moderate those questions. So we will certainly make sure that we have time for questions from the audience here and questions from the virtual audience. I should also say that the event is being recorded. just so we're all aware of that. So I thought we should start with Rutgers, because here we are.
Right.
And as Kendall pointed out, this is a wonderful program of the Rutgers African American Alumni Alliance. So tell us a little bit about your academic career here, because from what I read, you did not start as a fine art major.
No. I came into Rutgers planning on going into engineering. My mother wanted me to be an engineer. I did not want to be an engineer. But coming out of high school in the 70s, 1979 to be exact, art was not, a young black kid coming out of, I came out of St. Joseph's High School in Metuchen, all white school. I was, freshman year, there were two of us in the whole school. And so my mother wanted me to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer, so I like math, even though my high school math teacher told me, he's like, Alonzo, you're a great guy, but please don't ever tell anybody I taught you math. So I got to Rutgers, and I got accepted at NJIT, Rutgers, RPI, Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, a couple of really good engineering schools. But I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I came to Rutgers, and I enrolled in calculus and all the other courses that I needed to take. And I failed calculus miserably. I failed every quiz. I failed every test. I failed every exam. And I switched my major to, I told my mother that I wanted to major in art. She had a fit. And I said, Mom, I'm just not meant to be an engineer. I don't even like science, and then I like math and I can't pass math. So Paul Bruner, who was a professor at Mason Gross, saw my work. I switched from Rutgers College to Mason Gross. He came over and talked to my mother, and next thing I know, I'm an art major, and haven't looked back since.
So he came and talked to your mother and convinced her that,
yes,
that you had a future as an
yes,
artist. And so that's something that he saw that so early on.
It literally, how athletes, how recruiters go to athletes' homes to talk to parents.
Right.
That's literally what he did. He went to Plainfield, talked to my mother. My mother only had a 10th grade education. I was the first one in my family to go all the way through college. My uncle did before I did, but he, 7 years. Yeah. I was the first one to go away, and he's good. He's really good. But back then, if you remember, there was a show called Good Times, and JJ was in the ghetto, and JJ never got out of the ghetto as an artist. So my mother, she was not happy, but she agreed, and she's like, look, if you're going to do it, just be the best you can at it, and sent me on with her blessings. But it was because of him coming to the house, to talk to her. Yeah.
That's amazing. So, and I also read that, or heard you talking about your time at Rutgers. You were part of the black newspaper at Rutgers, and you were, I think, the
chief illustrator.
Yeah, the chief illustrator.
Yes, that, believe it or not, I think that's what really gave me the confidence that I could do it, because I had planned on, I switched to Mason Gross. And I planned on going into, I planned on being an illustrator, because Paul Bruner brought in Charles Lilly, who was an illustrator back in the 70s and 80s for a lot of major publications. He did the cover of Malcolm X, the autobiography. And he brought him in to show me other people that were doing it. And of course, I was inspired to become an artist by Charles White. But when I became a illustrator for the Black Voice Carter Barica, it really taught me about working on time. It gave my work more visibility through the college news, through the newspaper, and people were coming from other campuses, other schools on Wednesdays just to get our publication. So my work was being seen, by thousands and thousands of people, early on. And it made me really realize, hey, you know something, you can do this, you know. But to be honest with you, I always thought I could do it. You know, it just was reinforced by people admiring the work.
Mm-hmm. That's great. So, and then after Rutgers, you went to the University of Pennsylvania and got your MFA there,
Yeah.
your Master's of Fine Arts.
Yeah.
So were there any faculty members or people that were inspirational for you that kind of helped you on your way?
I enjoyed University of Pennsylvania, but my first intro to UPenn, I mean, I enjoyed my time down there. I enjoyed the studio, you know, having my work critiqued and everything. But my first week on campus, the chairperson came in and he goes, he comes in my studio, he says, I've been waiting to see you. I've been waiting to see you. Such raw talent, right? And because a lot of people don't know, I got a fellowship to go to graduate school by Bill and Camille Cosby. And I was told I can go anywhere in the world, just I had to get accepted on my own merit. Mm-hmm. And it's because I was pretty proficient with watercolor, but he wanted me to learn oils because he said, if you go to the museums, he says, which I think your work will eventually be in, most of the works are in oils except for the studies, you know? And so he wanted me to go back to graduate school to learn oils. So my first week at University of Pennsylvania, Neil Welliver, who was the chairperson, comes in. He goes, I've been waiting to see you. Such young, raw talent, right? And he says, he looks at my work. He comes in because he's a painting that I'm working on. He goes, let me ask you a question. He goes, I said, yeah. He goes, and I knew what was coming. He goes, why is all your subject matter black? And I was like, because it's my life. I paint what I have a passion for. And I said to him, I said, we have, I can't remember her name, who is a feminist, okay? Because I know what you're getting ready to ask me. How come I don't paint other things? I said, did you go in her studio and ask her how come she doesn't paint, you know, that? Anything different? No. I said, I have abstractionists all around me. Do you ask them how? I said, but the first thing you want to do is ask me to change what I have a passion for and what I like to paint. And he goes, oh. He's like, okay, I didn't know I was gonna run into all of this. And so he goes, all right, well, just do me a favor, do a painting for me that just doesn't have a black subject in it, right? And I was like, he said, I want to challenge you to do that. So I did a painting, it's called The Evolution of Dance. It was a sculpture with a black African bust, a pair of ballet slippers, and a book that said Dance Theater of Harlem. And he came in the following week and saw the painting. He goes, do what you want. and by the end of the time I spent there, because I wasn't really liked that much, you know, because everybody I was battling against was abstractionists. And I was the only figurative artist there. And then when they found out that Cosby had sent me to school, it was like I was like that athlete that came from the hood that didn't really have the right to be there, but it was that he was talented, you know. So because there was a lot of wealthy people, wealthy students at UPenn, but by the end of the it's called the second year out of residency program, and one person gets a scholarship. He gave the scholarship to me. And I was really proud of that. And don't get me wrong, the other students were not happy, you know. But I caught hell the entire time I was at Penn. You know, students would come in and, I could do that if I wanted to, but I just choose not to. I like to express myself. And then this one young lady came in and showed me hers, and I was like, I see why you're an abstractionist, you know. So. But that was my time at Penn. But I gained some great friendships down there. Not in the art department, but in other relationships.
But I think the moral of that story is stick to what you want to do and what you know, and you'll succeed, right?
Yeah. My mother was a very stubborn lady. My grandfather was, if you look up stubborn in the dictionary, you'll see a picture of him smiling. I am stubborn, and especially when I believe firmly in something.
But I often think artists need to be, right? Because you get a lot of naysayers along the way.
Absolutely.
And you have to know what you are doing.
Absolutely.
And you have to believe in what you're doing, and you keep doing it, and then at some point people catch up with you.
Absolutely.
Right? I think
Absolutely.
that is often the story, so.
Absolutely.
So good for you. So, and speaking of that, so you've had an incredibly successful career. Your art is in these amazing collections. Can you talk a little bit about, the start of your career? Because, your career is a little unusual in that you don't have a gallery.
Right.
But you have an incredible, successful record of selling, and you're in all these wonderful collections. So it might be interesting for some of the young artists in the audience to kind of understand how you were able to navigate that.
Well, to be honest, when I got out of grad school, I was quote unquote the Cosby Kid. He had the Midas touch, and galleries were coming at me left and right, and I got to be honest with you. I don't know. Sometimes I sit back and I wonder if I made the right decision, because a lot of works that go into museums, they go to galleries to get to museums. The galleries almost have to give you the, not like credibility.
Right.
Okay. When I came out of school, everyone was coming right to me to get the work, and I was doing shows. I was doing pop-up galleries before pop-up galleries were the fad, and people were buying my work like crazy. And then when I would go to when I finally said, okay, let me check out the gallery, it was when I found out the commission that you had to give up to be in the gallery. I was like, why am I going to give it? And then they wanted exclusivity, and I said, why? I could do it myself. Right. But don't get me wrong. There's people that have signed on with galleries that have pole vaulted over me. Yeah. And then plus I had prints on the market, and a lot of galleries don't want to look at you if you have prints on the market. But when I started my career, a lot of African Americans were not collecting art. Yeah. If you walked in most African Americans' homes when I was growing up, you saw 2 paintings on the wall. Prints, really. Prints. Jesus Christ and Martin Luther King, JFK, and Robert F. Kennedy on the other wall. You didn't see any black art on the walls. Right. So I started doing prints, and because, to be honest, the disposable income wasn't there, to buy art. And so people started buying my work, my prints. And I was making good money with the prints. But when the galleries see that, a large amount of prints on the market, you've commercialized yourself. Yeah. So, so I turned off the faucet. Yeah. I stopped doing the prints, and now there's so many people that can afford, and there's wealth out there, and I have a large portion of my collectors that are not African American, and they support me. They've supported my career, and plus my people are able to buy more work now. More black people have more money to buy artwork and put in their homes. So I've been blessed to, from actors to sports figures to CEOs to, I've been blessed to make a living and to take care of my family and put my kids through school and plus lived what I love doing. Art is my oxygen. Right. I love painting. You know, I just unloaded literally $6,000 worth of art supplies into my studio, canvases, paint, this, that. I cannot wait to get back in there and dive in and start working. But it's been because of, you know, collectors stepping up and buying work. I'm waiting for the museums now. But yeah.
Well, you're here. This is the first step.
It's the first step, exactly.
So, so you talked a little bit before about, you know, that you knew what your subject was, and you were very stubborn and convinced that you were right in following through on that subject, and in fact, you've been proved correct that you. So, tell us a little bit. How important is it, as an artist, to be an artist who has a message, for example?
Okay. Oh no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, no, that's okay. We could start there.
All my life, all my art career, I've been asked. I remember a show I did in Summit when I used to do outdoor
Summit,
art,
New Jersey.
Summit, New Jersey, outdoor art festivals, right? And a lady came up to me and she's like, "Oh my God, your work is so beautiful." And I was like, "Thank you." And she goes, "Can I ask you a question?" And I'm like, "Sure." And she goes, "How come you only paint Black people?" And I said to her, "If I don't paint us and you don't paint us, who's gonna paint us?"
Right.
Okay, and I like to tell our story through my work, and you know, the highs, the lows, the joys, the sorrow. You know, but I like to evoke emotion with my work, and I can remember, true story, when I was at Mason Gross, right? You know, I would do work. You know, I had my studio, even though Mason Gross is nowhere near like what it is now.
Yeah.
When I was here, it was on George Street. It was a building. My studio was maybe it was tiny. The evolution is unbelievable. Kudos. Okay, but when I wanted to learn how to paint, all my professors were abstractionists.
Yeah.
Except for my illustration professor, and I didn't know how to paint Black skin. So I went to the museum, Metropolitan Museum of Art, looking for paintings to give me examples of how to paint Black skin.
Right, right.
So I had to teach myself how to paint Black skin. You know, because Black skin is not burnt sienna and burnt umber, and you know, it's a mixture of cadmiums and purples and you know, sienna, you know, but I had to teach myself how to paint. So a lot of times people say to me, "Who taught you how to?" I have the degrees and all that stuff, but I had to teach myself how to paint Black skin.
Right.
If you look at Crayola crayons, right? Back when I was growing up, like every kid, I used to like to color in coloring books. When I went to paint, you know, look for the color for flush.
Right.
It was pink.
Right.
You know, that was the color in Crayola. So I had to literally teach myself to blend colors to make brown skin. But you know, that's been the challenge, you know, all along is trying to force feed African American art, you know. But now like I always tell people, I may not get through the door, but hopefully I'll make it you know, so that other people behind me will get in the door. You know, the world is opening up to African American art now. It's everywhere now, and like if you go to Art Basel, you go to the shows over at on the pier now. There's so many galleries that carry African American art, but that has not always been the case. I remember going into galleries and presenting my work when I was right out of college, And I still remember this gallery owner saying to me, my God, I love your work, but your people don't buy artwork. And he wasn't being racist. He was being honest.
Right.
And I remember saying then, I'm just going to force feed artwork down their throat. And luckily now I look up and I see it everywhere. I mean, it's to the point where non-Black artists are painting Black people because it's like, hey, they're selling, you know. But I don't know if that answers your question. I went off on a tangent, but I apologize.
No, you're right, and you know it's long overdue. The art world has been too
Yes.
white for too long.
Yes.
And I'm heartened, and I know more people are heartened by the change that's happening. So
I'm
just have to
loving
keep
it. I'm
pushing.
embracing it. I'm thrilled to see it. You know, I just hope I'm not too late for it.
No, I don't think so. I think you're at the right moment. So
From your lips to God's ears.
you know, the other thing you talk about a little bit is how important it is to be in the context of your own time. You know, and I think you know that's part of the message. You know,
Right.
you're documenting, you know, African American life
Right.
in America at this time
Right.
through your own work. Could you talk a little bit also about the Code Blue series that that Maura brought up?
Okay, I like to. An artist that wasn't mentioned in my bio, but had a really big impact on me is Norman Rockwell. Norman Rockwell, I grew up loving his work, and you know, Norman Rockwell romanticized the Depression. But if you look at a piece, you know, he has timeless art. Just like I think when I listen to Marvin Gaye's music or Stevie Wonder's music, it's timeless.
Yeah.
But it was of their time that the music was created. Like, you know, what's going on? You know, right now I'm trying to paint what's going on in my era, and Code Blue came out of a very rough period in my life. My mother went into the hospital for a simple back surgery, and she never made it out. She was in a coma for 2 months, but she was brain dead right after the surgery, and she had a massive hemorrhage. And I was in the hospital with her by her bedside because I'm an only child, and my mother raised me by herself. So it was destroying me, and it got to the point where I was like, God, why are you? You know, I'm going there every day looking for a miracle, and when I was in the hospital, all I could hear was, you know, if you're in a hospital, there's a white light, a red light, and then there's Code Blue. A white light is you're calling a nurse. A red light means there's an emergency. Code Blue means somebody needs to be resuscitated. They're dying, and that's what I got out of the 2 months that I spent there. And that's when I started the Code Blue series, because there's so many of our young people that need resuscitation. It's almost like we've lost a generation. Like the first piece I did in the Code Blue series is called I Am the N-Word, right? And it says I am Nubian, I am necessary, I am, and then at the bottom it says I am many ends,
Right.
but I am not. I don't use the word. I hate the word.
Yeah.
But it says I am not a nigger,
Right.
right? And society has taught so many of us to hate each other, and I don't know if it's a slave mentality or whatever, but there's so many young people that need life breathed back into them. Because I was even getting to the point where I felt like it was hopeless, you know. So that's where the Code Blue series came out of. It came out of wanting to resuscitate our young people, breathe life back into it, give a sense of hope, and so that's when I started doing paintings that were, along that. And fortunately enough, I guess I hit a nerve because I can hardly keep them in my collection. As soon as I do a piece that's in the Code Blue series, it's sold usually. So
I know, because I looked on your website and a lot of things seemed sold. So
thank God. Now, I mean, there's still pieces available, but yeah.
You need to get into that studio.
Yeah, no, that I've been blessed. I mean, but yeah, the Code Blue series, that's near and dear to my heart. Every artist has had a series. Charles Whitehead had Jacques Lou's Accused series. Right. Jacob Lawrence had the Migration series. Romare Bearden so many artists have series. That's the one series that I want to, I guess, people to remember me by. Yeah. If they do remember me. All
right, so I'm watching the time, and I want to make sure people have time to ask questions, but I think we should talk about the paintings that are here.
Okay.
Maybe you could talk a little bit about, tell us the title of each.
Well, this piece here is called The Guardian. And like I said, I do a lot of paintings paying homage to Black women because I was raised by a Black mother. I was raised by a mother who only had a 10th grade education, but was smarter than most people that I knew. A lot of people don't understand what the Black woman went through from slavery, I went to Ghana recently, and oh my God, it was such a life-changing experience. And but this is, like, my mother was a strong Black woman. A lot of times people will look at this and all they see is the figure, but then all of a sudden they'll get close and like, oh my God, there's children in the background, and that she, I see them as the guardian. The men go out, yeah, we work, this and that, but the mother is, the woman is, she's really the one who holds it down at home. Yeah. I mean, it holds it down and holds her man down, when I say hold him down, that's the new terminology of the young people. Lifts us up, really, yeah, and is there to be the strength and the backbone of the family. And that piece is called The Guardian, showing a young, proud African-American mother who's really the guardian of these children in the background.
And it looks a little bit, there's that Barclay Hendricks painting called Lordy Mama. It's at the Studio Museum, but also It makes me think of Charles White. Yeah,
everyone. Well, believe it or not, there's a piece that Charles White did that did inspire this piece.
Okay.
Yes, like I said, I would not be an artist if it wasn't for Charles White.
Yeah.
That's another story, another day. He died in 1979. I graduated high school in 79. I felt like his death was my birth. He passed the torch, and I saw his work on Like It Is, and I knew then and there I definitely was destined to be an artist.
And that's a good segue to the next painting.
Right.
Right, which is called?
The Critic.
Right.
And if you look closely, he's holding a Charles White calendar, looking at a Basquiat-ish type of painting. And I don't make any bones about it. I'm not a huge fan of Basquiat's work. I'm just not. I wasn't, and I didn't understand how he's heralded as a master or a genius, this and that. And I know people gonna be, ooh, that's taboo, don't say that. But I come from the school and the thinking of figurative work. And I know the backstory to his success. So I did this painting, and it's my first multimedia piece that I did. It's a combination of oil and acrylic. And so many paintings are done in acrylic because of the speed. It dries fast, and a lot of Basquiat's paintings were done with acrylic, and even like house paint, and the speed at which I was able to do the painting, the painting that the young guy is viewing, I was like, oh my God, I should paint more in abstract. if I can churn it out like, you know, with this kind of speed. But if you see his head tilted to the side, he's like trying to understand it, you know. But it just speaks volumes about my experience here at Rutgers, at Mason Gross, and my experience at Penn, when I was surrounded by abstractionists, and I'm the only figurative artist there, and we would sit back and critique each other's work, and so that's what I'm saying in that piece.
Yeah,
I know it's blasphemy that I said what I said about Basquiat, and it might come back and haunt me one day, but that's just the way I feel.
But your preferred method is oil. That's
my preferred method is oil. And my son, who is turning into an unbelievable artist, he's like, Dad, you better hope I don't pick up paint, you know, a paintbrush one day, because he's working in pencil and charcoal right now. Oh. Yeah.
So, you know, I have more questions, but I don't want to take up all the time with my own questions and things. So do any of you audience members have questions? Yes, please. Oh, wait, we have a microphone for you. Sorry, Lindsay. Jumped the gun.
So you say that young people need life brought back into them, and that's what you were trying to do with the Code Blue series. So in what ways do you think that we need life brought back into us?
To be honest with you, like a lot of young people, there's this like a sense of entitlement, you know, of lack of respect for elders. You know, I grew up, you didn't curse around grown-ups. You know, you just didn't. You know, if you did, you know, like my mother used to say to me, if I even said "duh," planning on saying damn, I'll knock those teeth right out your mouth. My mother's favorite line was, I brought you into this world and I'll take you out. Okay? And my biggest problem with young people is that when I feel like resuscitation, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of young people that are taking up the charge to take us to a better place. But when I see young people just killing each other for no reasons, I mean, if you like listen to like a song like Jay-Z, he says, you're killing each other over a neighborhood or over a block that you don't even own. You know, it's like I challenge young people to just care more, you know, and to care about each other more, you know, and I think that right there is a start, you know. But I mean, I love you. And I have so much hope for young people. It's just that Maya Angelou said to me one day when I was sitting there talking to her, and I said to her, Dr. Angelou, I'm searching for that artistic voice. And she says, in that eloquent voice of hers, young Mr. Adams, you have to go out into the world and bring it back into your studio. And so, you know, go out there like a sponge and soak it up and come back and wring it out in your studio. She's like, one of the biggest problems with you as a young, because she was older, as a young person, is that the world is so, you live in a microwave, fast food society. Everybody wants things like that, like that, like that. Like, she's like, there's nothing like a home-cooked meal where you can go and put your feet under the table and eat food that's been marinated and spent all day cooking, you know, as opposed to, and that's the way it is with art, with life right now. Everyone wants to be great, but they don't want to work hard at being great. You know, they don't want to put in the time. Like I have friends that are professional athletes that, like Michael, I was with Michael Jordan about 2 weeks ago. And he was saying a lot of people don't know what it took for him to make it look easy to do what he did. You know, and a lot of people aren't willing to put that kind of time. Young people aren't, they want to be CEOs before they're interns. You know, and it doesn't work that way. You know, you gotta, I cleaned toilets all the way through college. All the way through college. And with the dream of one day being an artist, you know. So just put in the work, you know, just put in the work and care about each other and love each other, because you're our future, you know, and our hopes are in you. That, I don't know if that answered your question, but okay.
That's a good question. Good answer. Anybody else? Oh, good.
Brother Alonzo, is there a story behind your first Cold Blues artwork? Dunkin' Donuts?
Is there a story behind my first Code Blue painting, or? Yeah, the I Am the N-Word was the first one, and I hate the word. I hate the fact that our young people have tried to turn into a term of endearment when it was the worst word that could be said to us. And unfortunately, some of my ancestors, that was the last word they heard when they were either ripped apart by horses going separate directions, or hung, or set on fire, you know. And then we want to try to turn it into a term of endearment and call each other that. And then, like I said to a young brother one day, I was like, how can that be a term of endearment when the first thing you say to a person when you get angry with him, and you call him that also, you know? And it's like, he's like, and he said to me, but it doesn't mean anything to me. I was like, yeah, that's because you haven't lived through what our people, you know, our ancestors have lived through. Like when I went to Ghana, you didn't hear that word over there. And I remember coming out of the slave dungeon, and all I could think about was, my God, how did they endure this? How did they survive this? And I even asked the tour guide, and you know what he said to me? They lived so you could live. You know, and so how do we come over here and use that word? That was the word. You don't hear any other nationalities calling each other a derogative word, you know, to describe themselves. A word that a demonstrative word, I don't know if that's a word, but that what was given to them, you know, you don't hear them say that. You don't, and please don't take offense, but you don't hear Asians calling, oh, that's my chink. You don't hear Italians, oh, that's my wop. You don't hear Jewish, oh, that's my kike. But, oh, that's my, you know, it just drives me crazy. And that's when I Am the N-Word came out, and that was the beginning of the Code Blue series, because that is, you know, that needs you know, life being breathed into our people. And a lot of times people say, oh, the white man this, the white man that. No, how about look at yourself? Take ownership of the fact that you're bringing yourself down too, you know, and don't get me started.
I think
A question from the audience, live audience.
Thank you. So the initial question that I was going to ask you about the Guardian painting was how you, as a Black male artist, was able to convey the Black female experience. But after you telling me about, or telling the audience about your mother,
Right.
I wanted to know, how do you feel your art has sort of informed or impacted masses who don't understand the Black female experience?
To be honest, I've spoken with so many people who will contact me, whether it be through my Instagram or they'll get the number and call the studio and want to talk. Whenever you evoke emotion, whenever I evoke emotion from a painting, I know I've done my job. At one of my shows, a young lady just stood in front of one of my paintings and just started crying because it affected her in that way. And so I try to, being an only child, being raised by a strong Black mother, I try to give them praise and give them and pay homage to them in any way I can, because there's so many, like, even the I did a painting, the next painting after I Am the N-Word was called I Am That B. Okay? And what I was saying with that was because so many women started calling each other bitches and hoes. Okay? And I said all the positive B words that you can call each other, that as opposed to that. And I even talked to young people, and I'm like, why do you describe yourself as that? Oh, it's just I'm having fun. No, no. You work too hard to be, as people, we work too hard to go here to be brought down to as a, oh, you know, that's my, you know, oh, B, shut up, or this and that. And so I try to, in whatever way I can, because I don't know when my last painting is going to be, but I have a lot, like, well, I always say I have so much to say, and I try to say it through my art, and I try to, you know, say things that I would say to my daughter if I had a daughter, you know, or respect it, you know, just respect yourself and command respect from other people. You know, I don't know if I answered your question again, but.
So we're going to take some questions from the virtual event. And one is, how many paintings have you completed in your career, and which is your favorite?
God knows how many paintings I couldn't even begin to guess. And as far as my favorite, I haven't painted it yet. I'm just being honest, I haven't painted it. I mean, when I do a painting, sometimes it's really hard to part with it, you know, because like I always tell, like, my son, do not send your kids out half dressed. So I put my heart and soul into every piece that I do, and each one of them that I let go of is hard to let go of. So it might be my favorite in the moment, but I'm one brushstroke away from another favorite one being created.
Is any of your artwork on display during Black History Month, or do you have any upcoming shows in the New Jersey area?
Right now, there's a show going on in Morristown, Art in the Atrium, that I have 2 pieces. But I got to be honest with you, I'm too old to sugarcoat anything. Black History Month it was almost like every year I got, can you show? And I got to the point where, you know something, I'm Black 12 months out of the year, not just Black History Month. So I kind of stopped doing shows or accepting shows for, you know, like different corporations. Like, you know, I remember Merrill Lynch, Johnson & Johnson, Janssen Pharmaceutical, this place, that place, you know, for Black History Month, can you show? We're going to give you a stipend, this, that. And I got to the point where I was like, you know something? Black history is 12 months out of the year, not just February. So.
What other African American artists besides Charles White have influenced you?
To be honest, Ernie Barnes influenced me. Basquiat, I can't always say it had a positive influence on me, but, you know, Henry O. Tanner, absolutely love his work. Bannister, Duncanson, Bearden, even though he's not a figurative artist, Bearden and Jacob Lawrence. But yeah, artists like that. Elizabeth Catlett. Yeah, those are some of the artists that are artists of color that have influenced me. But still, Rembrandt and John Singer Sargent and Norman Rockwell stand out as driving forces also. And Thomas Akins, I forgot.
Have you thought of what your next series might be? And maybe you can use this opportunity to describe your creative process and how a subject comes to you.
Life is where the creative process comes from. Literally, I go out in the world and I see things and I read. I mean, Langston Hughes, it was a big. I found a lot of inspiration in reading his work. Of course, Dr. Angelo. See movies, you know, as corny as this sounds, like some of Spike Lee's movies, or you know, just. But I draw my inspiration from life. You know, I have not thought of. I thought of paintings that I want to do, but I haven't thought of the next series that I'm going to work on yet. But it's going to be about hope, you know, and it's going to be a diverse series, because I thought about it, because I just got together with some of my friends from high school yesterday for lunch. And like I said, when I was in high school, I was in an all-boy high school, St. Joe's in Metuchen, and those are some. And I just realized that those are some of my dearest friends to this day. We're like brothers, and yeah, I want to paint my life. I want to paint my experiences, and I was thinking about the war that's going on, that started today over in Russia and Ukraine. And I'm like, my God, people are just killing people over just ridiculous stuff. And we here in America, racism exists every day. And we're killing each other, you know, over the color of your skin. But if you go below the skin, we all bleed red blood, you know. And if we're to go forth as a people, we're gonna have to come together and unite and become one, because it just makes me sad to know that it brought it home for me the other day. I have just as many white friends as I do black, and I had come from a background of love. And yes, I paint black people because that's my passion, but I want to become more diverse and more inclusive with my artwork. So my next series of paintings, I think I'm gonna migrate the two, you know, join the two together, fuse the two, whatever, you know.
Bring them together.
Bring them together, more harmony.
So the final question before Donna closes is actually from someone you might know, Kelvin. He says, Alonzo, I've known you for many years through our fraternity, and he's learned so much here tonight. And he asks if he is accurate in saying that besides God-given talent, the traits of all-in commitment and courage to forge ahead best describe your secret to success.
Is that a question or a statement?
Maybe just an observation.
Oh, well, to be honest, as I walk through life, I just try to be my authentic self, and hopefully that'll be enough, along with the the talent that God gave me, and just I guess just to keep trying to speak the truth as I see it, and hopefully it will open some eyes and touch some hearts along the way.
Thank you.
I think that's a perfect way to end what has been a really beautiful, insightful, and powerful conversation. It's been a pleasure to have you here, Alonzo.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you to Kendall and to Deniston and to all of you for coming. It's been a real pleasure. I do want to say that the museum is open till 8 o'clock tonight. We have a Henry Osawa Tanner hanging in the American Gallery upstairs.
Oh, really? Okay.
We also have a Romeo Bearden hanging up there.
Is there an Alonzo Adams up there yet?
What'd you say?
Is there an Alonzo Adams up there yet?
Not yet?
We're gonna work on it. We're gonna work on it.
We can work. We can work.
I'm playing, but not playing.
Yeah. No, we know. We've.
Can I say one thing? Thank you so much to RAAA for making this happen. Thank you for Mason Gross coming out and representing and standing tall, because I owe so much to that school. And thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure. It really has. So I think join me in a round of applause for our honored guests. And if you're willing to stay for a few minutes, I think people should come up and look at
I'm out of here.
These
No,
paintings.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Come and have a better look at the paintings while they're here. Because it's not often that an artist brings paintings into the museum unless they're hanging on the wall. We often have to work with slides. So it's a real pleasure to
You know what
see.
that means then? I have to leave one here.
Do we get to choose?
No, that one's sold already. So.
Okay. So thanks, everyone.